The Montreal Canadiens have agreed to terms on an 8-year, $60.8 million contract with forward Juraj Slafkovsky. It'll pay him an average annual salary of $7.6 million. He is just 20 years old. He put up 50 points in 82 games of the Habs last season. First player in team history to record 40 points in a single season before the age of 20. And we're once again joined by Frankie Corrado, our NHL analyst, who called a number of Montreal Canadiens games with Brian Mudryk on TSN this past season. Frankie, you got a first-hand look at the Slovakian first overall pick. Do you like the idea of the Habs locking this kid up long-term? I know the fan base is pretty pumped about it.
The fan base should be pumped because his progression, from halfway through the season, basically all the way through the end of the year, was rapid. And Juraj Slafkovsky deserves to be taken care of. The thing I like about it, it fits into the Canadiens' cap structure. Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield, Juraj Slafkovsky is going to be right in the mix with those players. But here's the thing now, Jay. This can't fall into, what we've seen with the Ottawa Senators, where you gave all those young players all that money and you put the responsibility on them and they haven't come through. They haven't been able to get over the hump. That can't happen in Montreal now. I like the way Montreal kind of went about their business. They were quiet. They didn't spend money just for the sake of spending money. Like, they have enough money on their books that they kind of need to part with. So now here's the challenge. At some point, that money's going to move on. You need to start getting this team where it needs to go. You'll have your young players locked in, but it's up to those young players to do things the right way and understand the responsibility that comes with these long-term deals with that price tag attached to it.
All right, let's take a look at the Calgary Flames. Interesting day for Calgary. They signed Anthony Mantha to a one-year deal worth $3.5 million. He split last year between Washington and Las Vegas, 44 points in 74 games. But maybe more significantly, they signed Yegor Sharangovich to a 5-year contract extension worth $28.75 million. He was acquired in that Tyler Toffoli trade last summer. Great trade for Craig Conroy. Sharangovich, a career-high 31 goals in his first season with Calgary. They also signed D-man Jake Bean to a 2-year deal. They signed Cup winner Ryan Lomberg to a 2-year deal. I'm not sure. What direction is Craig Conroy taking here, Frankie? Is it a true rebuild or is it a retool, another use of the word we were using earlier in the show?
It's definitely not a true rebuild, although, think about all the pieces that have moved on over the past year. Like, you think about Noah Hannafin. There's been a lot of guys that have had to move on from this team. Lindholm, Zadorov. But it's not a true rebuild. It is somewhat of a retool. Here's the thing with the Calgary Flames, though. Are they kind of stuck in that murky middle right now? Like, not truly good enough to be a playoff team, but not bad enough to really bottom out? They have some contracts that they're tied to that they can't really move off of. And, Nazem Kadri's a good player. So, that's not an anchor of a contract by any stretch of the imagination. He's going to be a good player for them. Jonathan Huberdeau, we've talked about it so much, Jay. We know what that contract entails. But when you're tied to money, you're tied to Anderson and Weegar, you are going to be somewhat of a good enough team that you're going to be in the mix. So you bring in a guy like Mantha, you sign Sharangovich, who ended up being a good trade for them. He added an element to their team. It's almost like it's a little bit of some placeholder money just to see what this team turns into. Mm-hmm. Play out the year, see where this team goes, see what players are going to come and go. So you do need some players on your roster. I think it's in Calgary, it's a retool, but it's almost like a let's wait and see. Let's wait and see where we're at here as far as what direction we're really going to go in.
And then for the Winnipeg Jets, you lose Sean Monahan to Columbus. He signs there for 5 years. You sign a couple of backup goaltenders. You bring back Eric Comrie. You get Kaapo Kähkönen. It's interesting you're focusing on goaltenders for a team that has the reigning Vezina winner. But overall, we've talked about it a million times, Frankie. Kevin Cheveldayoff has a lot more restrictions on him than a lot of other GMs and a lot of things that hamper him from doing things. But do you have to be a little bit disappointed here if you're a Jets fan?
For sure, Jay. This is not a good day for the Winnipeg Jets. And like you mentioned, there are some obstacles and hurdles that come, with the Winnipeg Jets on a day like today. Let's be honest, call it what it is. Minus 42 all winter. It's not for everyone. Winnipeg's a great market, great place to play, all that kind of stuff. But that's the sell that Kevin Cheveldayoff has to have. And you lose Sean Monahan, who you brought in for a first-round pick. He goes to Columbus. You lose Tyler Toffoli. You buy out Nate Schmidt, and you would have thought there's money. Like, there's money to be spent in Winnipeg. They don't do enough on this day. There's still time. I don't know who's out there that you're going to sign because all the impact players are gone. But you lose out on a lot of good players, and your team is worse than it was when it lost to Colorado in the first round. And, Colorado's not going anywhere. Dallas is not going anywhere. And, oh yeah, the Nashville Predators had the best day out of everyone, and they're in the Central Division. So life isn't exactly getting easier for the Winnipeg Jets after today.
On the plus side, it's very warm right now in Winnipeg, and it's always fun there in the summer. Frankie will be back on Tuesday's show. We're going to cover any of the big news on Tuesday.